What were the guys whispering to each other?
Well, so Liam Smith came in about an ounce and a half or 2 ounces over. He took his pants off, which anyone knows how much pants weigh, is about an ounce and a half, 2 ounces. And then everybody come over to the scales. Obviously, you're up there on a stage and it's flickering. You know, it's going over, under, and I think Shane felt that people were getting too close to Liam Smith. You can influence the weight of a fighter by just a little tap on the arm. He wanted everyone back. Joe McAnally didn't like what Shane McGuigan was saying. A little bit of nothing major, and then everybody cleared out the way, and the board, he was bang on the number. So in the end, we got there. Obviously, the Smith brothers down here, and I think it was all sorted out in the end. But it's just, you know, I keep saying to people, it's not normal, this environment. You know, actually, the two that were best behaved were the fighters. You know, but there's a lot on the line. You know, people want to win this fight really badly, and when you put people in an environment like this, when you've got 500 people here, 10,000 tomorrow night, tempers rise, and we saw a bit of that, but all leads to a dramatic fight tomorrow night.
Yes. Can you also tell us, obviously Shannon came over on the scales, so what does this mean for her?
Well, unfortunately, she's going to lose her title on the scales. She's not going to make weight. She'll make a statement shortly, but it's a gutter, you know, and she's got to recover from that mentally, and then move forward now and try and win the fight. Because Jamie Mitchell's now going, right, I can still win the world title, so I'm going to go and win the world title. Shannon's thinking, I need to win the fight, but I'm not even world champion anymore. Tough. That's life. Get over it and go out and fight and win the fight tomorrow. Hopefully fight for a vacant title in your fight after. And you know, it is what it is, unfortunately.
Last question, Eddie. Obviously, we've noted that Rhiannon Dixon wasn't on the scales today. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, her and Natasha Jonas. I mean, Natasha Jonas is another story. Turned down, I think, 6 or 7 opponents and gave me an opponent that was 1-10 or 2-10. I just said no. You know, I don't want to put a mismatch on the card. She's a world-class fighter, should be fighting proper opposition. Rhiannon Dixon got very unlucky. Her opponent pulled out on Tuesday. Myself, Steve Wood, everybody, all throughout Europe trying to look for an opponent, of which we failed. Argentina, Mexico, all these countries are on a red list. You can't bring anyone in. And unfortunately, it's a small pool of fighters in those divisions, where you're talking about probably 4 or 5. You know, Rhiannon Dixon is not Natasha Jonas. She can't be fighting the list that I sent through to Natasha Jonas. Unfortunately, the list that is suitable, none of them would accept the fight, and she'll be rescheduled in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Eddie.
No worries.
Charlie Parsons, Workman Boxing, joined by Eddie. Just talk about what we saw up on the scales. Obviously, I think the trainers were going at it with each other. It looked like they sort of made friends after.
Yeah, it was all good. I think just tempers rise. You've got a situation where they want to make sure that he's made weight. He's an ounce and a half over, 2 ounces over. That's generally the weight of a pair of pants. The pants came off. People are crowding round. It's flickering one side or the other, and everyone just wanted everyone out. You know, the board will make their decision. 154 bang on was the number. Obviously, a little bit of back and forth handbags between the two teams, but ready for a huge fight tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, it was a tough fight before his problem. Now it's an even tougher fight. I was just saying, you know, she's got to mentally overcome the fact she's lost her world title. You know, hopefully she can get a shot for a vacant title after this fight, but that's the reality of what's happened now. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. Yeah, well, Natasha Jonas, you know, I saw Joe Gallagher's comments. You know, they've turned down 6 opponents, various from Victoria Bustos to Erica Farias to Vernon Kaiser, just standard fight. You know, Farias has lost 4 of her last 6. You know, the others lost every round to Katie Taylor, to Cecilia Brackhouse. Natasha Jonas agreed to rematch Katie Taylor for a lot of money. Or
why is Jonas asking for these 2-10 opponents?
It's not even Natasha Jonas, it's Joe Gallagher. And the answer is no. You know, you're on a lot of money to fight on Saturday. People want to see at least something decent. We put forward 6 opponents that were all suitable. In the end, they came back with an opponent that was 4-5 or 5-4. We said, not really, but we'll accept it. The management company dealt with it. She pulled out of the fight. Then they came back with a girl that was 2-10. No.
Yeah, the stick.
But the answer's no. But I'm going to get stick anyway. Now she's not on the card. Rhiannon Dixon was just unlucky. She's a novice. She's coming through. She had an opponent, pulled out on Tuesday. We couldn't get a replacement. Robbie Davis Jr. is now added to the card in replacement for those two. And you know, we'll make an announcement on Rhiannon Dixon's opponent shortly.
Cheers, Eddie, and thank you for taking off Oscar yesterday.
Oh, no problem, mate. Ready? Yes.
This is member of your boxing news TV. I'm here with the one and only Eddie Hearn. Eddie, can you just talk us through what happened with the Smith and Fowler teams there?
Yeah, so Liam Smith jumped on the scales. He was an ounce and a half or 2 ounces over, generally the weight of a pair of underpants. Peeled off, and then everyone came around the scales. You know, and sometimes you can get too close, it can affect the weight of a fighter. I think that's what Shane was concerned about. Joe McInally thought Shane was taking liberties with that suggestion, and then eventually we got everyone out of the way and he hit the number bang on. So yeah, a little bit of drama between the teams, but nothing too major. The fighters were probably the best behaved out of everybody.
Think you'll give Anthony any more confidence for tomorrow?
I mean, look, any time a fighter misses weight on the first attempt and has to strip down and get their old boy out, it's never great look, is it? But I don't know, you know, I saw a fired up Liam Smith up there, I saw a fired up Anthony Fowler. I just think you're going to get a brilliant fight.
And Shannon Courtney's lost her belt on the scales as well?
Yeah, disappointed.
So she's not going to try and
She won't make weight. She'll talk about it later, she'll make her own statement, but you know, it's been a long camp for her, she's trained hard, unfortunately she couldn't make the weight. She's now got an even bigger challenge tomorrow night because she's lost her belt. So she has to try and win the fight for the vacant belt, and now Jamie Mitchell still gets a shot at the World Championship belt, and she has believed even from the start she's going to win tomorrow night. So it's a very, very tough fight, and emotionally she's got to come to terms with that very quickly.
Final question for me is Tasha Jonas, obviously missing from the card. You mentioned in a few of the interviews there. Is part of the reason because she's meant to be leaving for Sky?
No, she's got a commentary work with Sky that she's going to be doing, and ultimately, you know, she agreed to fight a contract to fight Katie Taylor in a rematch for huge money in December, and agreed to fight for the World Championship here. She then didn't want to do it. She wanted a slightly easier fight here, of which we agreed, and then we put forward 6 opponents to MTK and to Joe Gallagher, of which they turned all down straight away. And these are girls that have been beaten. One girl has lost 4 of her last 6. One girl lost to nobody. Katie Taylor and Brackhouse have all won against these girls every round of the fight. But they refused all those opponents, came back on Monday, I think, with a 5-4 opponent, which I thought, it's not good enough, but okay. And then they couldn't deliver her as an opponent. And then they came back to me with an opponent that was 1-10 or 2-10. The answer is no. You know, I'm the only one that gets stick when you put on shit fights, yet you're making great money for this fight and you want to fight an embarrassing fight. The answer is no. So, you know, Rhiannon Dixon was unlucky. Her opponent pulled out. We looked everywhere for a replacement. We add Robbie Davis Jr. to the card now at late notice to replace Natasha Jonas. And, you know, I saw Joe Gass said,
are you blaming Joe or MTK?
I'm blaming Joe. Ultimately, MTK knew what, you know, they're in a position where they were happy, I believe, with some of the opponents who were put forward. It was just a flat no from Joe. You know, you can't, they turned down the Katie Taylor rematch for 6 figures plus some, right? They turned down a World Championship fight here. Now they turned down 6 opponents for over 8 rounds. And what I got back was, here's the solution, a 2-10, which is that it's an embarrassing fight. And the answer is, I don't want to put an embarrassing fight on because all I get is stick. Yeah. So you had your opportunities to fight, actually world champions, undisputed champions. You wanted your 8-rounder, I understand, and it was a lot of money for an 8-rounder, but you ain't fighting a 2-10, you know, in that position. No. So that's the answer.
Fantastic, thank you very much for your time.
Eddie, just a quick update on Usyk and Joshua rematch.
Yeah, I'm due to catch up with Alex Krasuk at the end of October to talk through the venue and also the plans for that rematch. AJ's back in training, which I've told him not to do, but that's just what he wants to do. Told him to go on holiday, but obviously just working towards that rematch.
Right, brilliant. And what's your thoughts on the fight tomorrow, Fury versus Wilder?
I think Fury wins on points. I think he boxes safety first in that fight. Wilder's always dangerous, but I believe Tyson Fury will win that fight.
And Dillian Whyte, what's your thoughts?
That's a tough fight. You know, I mean, now he's in a position where he looks like he's going to be mandatory for the World Championship, which is great, but also a tough job against Otto Wilding coming up in a few weeks. So we hope that Tyson Fury wins this weekend, and then Dillian Whyte will be his mandatory.
Thank you, Eddie.
Cheers.